everyone, and welcome back to another Tay Township Public Library craft. Today we're going to be making our sunset silhouette paintings, and we're going to be doing this with some masking tape and black paint, and then the sunset colors, and then also a stencil that we cut with our Cricut. So follow the steps along with me, and also remember to let it dry in between each step. That's really important. If you don't let the black paint dry all the way, then your sunset might end up a little gray skied, and we don't want that. And also you want to make sure the paint is dry before you lift off the tape, and before you paint on the white and the moon, because then it'll turn blue. So follow the steps along with me, follow the instructions, and let's have some fun painting today. Okay, so let's get started on our sunset silhouette painting. So first, let's unpack our bag. We have instructions, our canvas, your vinyl stencil transfer for the windswept tree, all of your paint, and a plastic spoon with 3 sizes of masking tape to use for your painting. So let's go ahead and set that aside in our bag. And we have to unwrap our canvas. Don't forget to take the plastic off. There we go. And then at home, you're going to need, if you have, this is called a stippling brush. Oh, mine's falling apart. There we go. But if you don't have one of these, you can use a sponge, or just be really careful with your paintbrush when you're doing the stencil part. And then I have a wider brush. You can use one that's a little bit bigger than this, or smaller, whatever you have. And then I grabbed a little paintbrush so that I can sign my painting at the end. That's pretty much the only thing you need that one for. So, and I've also got a cup of water ready. I used an old yogurt tub and some paper towel in case you need to wash your paintbrush. Oh, the other thing I did grab was a couple of popsicle sticks. Might be easier to scoop out the different colors of paint when we're doing the stripes of the sunset. So the first thing we're going to do is paint the entire canvas black and then let it dry. Now tape your lid and be careful not to spill any. And always make sure you put, when you're painting, something down on your surface so you don't get paint all over your work surface. All right, now I've got my paint open. We can take that lid off very carefully. And take the big paintbrush. I'm going to use what's in the lid first so we don't waste any paint. And paint the whole canvas black and let it dry completely. All right, now let this dry until it is completely dry, and then we're going to mask out our windows. Okay, so step 2, we're going to tape off with our masking tape the windows. So the first thing you're going to do is take your largest masking tape, and that is going to be the frame of the outside. So please make sure that your first layer of black paint is completely dry before you do this part, or else it'll pull up the paint. So you can use some scissors if you want to cut the edge. Now we folded it over so you could find the edge. So I'm going to cut that part off. And then make sure you're right at the edge. Nice and straight. Oops. Okay, now mine I ripped the tape a little bit on the one side, so I'm going to do it, just put an extra little piece here so I don't get any color over there. So now that the frame is done, make sure it's good and stuck right along the edges. And now we're going to use the middle one to make the frame of the windows. So first thing you're going to do, figure out how wide you want your windows to be. About here, and you can just do a straight line down. You can also see how big your tree is. I think actually I might move it over a little bit more. And you can use a ruler if you want to get the windows both exactly the same. And I'm going to put another one here. Let's see if this is going to fit. Oh, it just fits inside. I'm going to straighten out this piece a bit. Move it over just a tiny bit. The next two pieces we have to angle down from the top and the bottom to make it look like it's an open window. And we're still using the middle tape. So let's rip off a little piece. And we're going to go straight from the corner down here. Another little piece. I'm going to go a little longer. There we go. And again, straight out from the upper right corner, straight down to make a triangle. Oh, that piece wasn't quite long enough. Gotta move over a bit more. There we go. And then same thing from the bottom corners up. And then we're going to cut this up here because we want the color to be over here so it's an open window. So you're going to peel back once you have your window framed out and just cut this piece so it lines up with this one on the downward angle to line up with that other piece. And one more down here. So there our windows are framed out. I'm actually gonna, oops. There we go. Move that one just to line it up a bit. Oh, there goes my tape. Nice thing about masking tape, it's a little forgiving and you can move it around if you need to. Line it up perfect. So there our windows are outlined, and then the last little piece to tape off is the window panes. So we're going to do straight line down, and then the tricky part is you kind of want to mirror the outline. So we're going to do 3 lines, one down the middle, and then kind of to match the frame. So first we're going to do a line down the middle. And then the next piece is going to be right in the middle, straight across. Whoops. A little bit more. And then another one on the middle here. And then the next one, you don't want to do the same angle as here, but you do want to angle it a little bit up. And it'll give the illusion that the windows are open. So just like that. And then the same thing. Oh, see, cutting is a little bit better. You can get a little more accurate so you don't have a little tail hanging out. There we go. Flatten that out. And then go ahead and do all the other panes. All right, now we've got our windows framed out. We're all done with the tape. It can go up out of the way. Then we're going to paint over the entire thing black again. And this will seal in the edges of the tape and prevent it from bleeding underneath the tape so that you have nice clean lines for your windows and your frames. So go ahead, just before you do that, give it another little rub. Make sure your tape is nice and stuck around the outside. And then take your paintbrush. I washed mine in my bucket there. Take your lid off your paint again. And then go ahead and paint over the whole thing black again. And then let it dry completely before the next step. Okay, so now that the black paint is completely dry on top of our tape, we're going to go ahead and paint our sunset. So you can go ahead and take out the 5 other colors of your bag and set them up. And now I suggest using some popsicle sticks because then you can get a good dollop of paint and put it on here rather than dipping your paintbrush into each color. Because if you do that, they might run together and you might end up with green in there, and we don't want any green in our sunset. Other thing you can do is use separate paintbrushes to get the paints out or wash it in between. So I'm going to open up the red because it says to scoop up and place a dollop of red paint right in the center of the canvas. So let's open up our red paint. Give it a little stir and get a good dollop right in the middle. I'm going to do it another little. And if you find out some of these have a pretty good seal, but sometimes the paint can dry up a little bit. So if you have a little skin in there, avoid getting that on the canvas like that. I think I did get a little bit of a little piece of here, I'm going to use my spoon. There we go. I don't want that on there. Put that off to the side. And then it says white paint an inch above the red, and then blue paint. So I'm going to use the other side of my popsicle stick, open up my white paint. And you can always add more paint after if you need to. Close that up. Oh, I'll close the red too so it doesn't dry out. And then blue paint at the top. This one dried out a bit too. That's okay. Or it's just really thick. I think it's just really thick. So blue paint up there. And then underneath the red, yellow, and then orange. And then finally, this bright orange color. This one's thick like the blue one. Right there. All right, now we're going to take our wide paintbrush. Now make sure it's nice and clean. Oh, I still see a little bit of gray in mine. So I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean. We don't want gray skies in our sunset. There we go, that's better. Oh. Still see, I washed this like 3 times, silly black paint. There we go, now we're good. Make sure it's nice and dry. And then we're gonna start at the bottom. So it says take a wide brush, and starting at the bottom, you're gonna blend the orange paint and then up into the yellow, into the red, and all the way up to the blue. So we'll start with the orange. Nice bright orange. Might need more orange. And then we're gonna go up and get some of the yellow, bring it down into the orange and blend it. And make sure you go all the way to the edges. I got a little circle for my paint. And then get some red and bring it down into the yellow and blend it up. And if you see a little circle there, just give it a good push onto the canvas and get rid of it. Oh, I didn't go all the edge on this side, guys. So to get some more red paint and more yellow paint. See, I was telling you to go to the edge, and I didn't go to the edge on the one side. So I'm going to get some more yellow, but that's okay. And you know what? Everybody's painting is going to look completely different. I'm going to put some orange over here. And that should be good. More red. Oh. There we go. So I'm gonna get some of this orange off, come back into the yellow, go over to the edge. There we go, that's brighter. And then come back up into the red, go all the way to the edge. And you could always wash your brush and fix it up if you want after. And then we go into the white. Blend that up into it so you get a nice pink color. Oh, see, there's a dried piece of paint in my painting. That's what happens with those little paint cuppies, though. All the way to the edge. And then we're going to go up into the blue. And that's going to be the night sky up at the top. And make sure you go all into the grooves of the window. And you can bring it down a bit more. Blend in with the white. If you want more white, you can add more white to it. And I'm going to wash my brush and go and add some more orange at the bottom, I think. So I'm going to take this and add some more orange over here. And I just realized I don't have any yellow over there. And the reason you want to wash your brush if you're going back down to the bottom is because blue and yellow make green. Remember, we don't want to have a stormy green sky. We want a nice bright sunset. So my brush is nice and clean, just a bit of orange, which is fine. And then we'll go back and add some more orange down in the bottom. And it's lifting the paint a bit, but that's okay. We can fix that. And I'm going to add more yellow again. So you can play around with it and make it the way you want to, like I am. Add some more color here and there. Just, you want, every time you add some, you got to blend it into the other colors. Now this is because it started to dry and it's lifting it up. So what I might do is let this dry, and then I might put a little bit more yellow and orange at the bottom so you can see the black through a little bit. But that's okay too, because you can also, if you see it through, and you can also add some blue at the bottom if you wanted, because what that would do is create like water if you wanted it to be like a shoreline sunset. And I'm just going to go all the way up. Make sure I've got it all covered. And I'm going to let this dry. And then the next step is to add stars and the moon. So go ahead and let this dry and then come back for the next step. Now there's a couple different ways you can do the stars. You can use a, what did it say in the instructions? Let me find it. It says to create the stars, take a bit of white paint on a coarse brush and tap sharply against the handle to flick it down. You can do it that way. I don't have much luck doing it that way. So with your white paint, you can use it like an old toothbrush, or you could use the stippling brush to get it to go. But I actually like using the back end of a paintbrush. If you dip it in and you do dots like this, you can make it, depending on how much paint is on your brush, you can do as many or as little as you want, and then you can make it how you want it and control it a little bit more. But if you like the mist when you tap a brush, you can do that too. Make sure you get some in the windows and a couple down into the horizon, which would be down here, but just like that. You can use a little bit over the side. And then wipe off the back of your brush when you're happy with how many stars you got on your painting. So I'm going to just dip it in the water and give it a wipe on my paper towel. And then use a fine paintbrush to do a little crescent moon. Well, let's see where it is in the instructions. It's just up at the top here, because your tree is going to be stuck there. So you can decide where you want your moon. So if we put it over here, that would look good up in that top, just above the window edge, just like in the picture. You can see it. It's just up over on this side. But our tree is the other way than in the picture. So it depends on you which side you want to put that on. So I'm going to take some white paint and I'm going to put it going this way. So if you draw a C and then make it a little bit thicker in the middle. Get a little bit more paint here. And if it goes up into the top above the window frame, that's okay too. Just make sure before you do this that it's completely dry. Now I might need a second coat of white to get over that dark, dark blue up there. And depending on how thick you want, there we go. How thick your moon is depends on what time of the month it is. You could do a full moon if you wanted, or you could do a little sliver of a moon. All right, now while our moon is drying and our stars, wash your brush and put it aside. We're going to set it aside and get our sticker ready while this is drying. So I'm going to put it up here out of the way. Turn my instructions back over. And we're going to do the vinyl. So you peel the backing away. From the transfer tape first. Now when you need a card or ruler or a popsicle stick to make sure that this sticks properly. So you're going to peel this off the backing. Make sure this is nice and flat, no wrinkles, because it's all curly. And you're going to stick this on top of your transfer paper. And make sure there is, on your stencil, and make sure there's no wrinkles. And then you're going to use your card and run it firmly across. If you did the Mother's Day craft where we made the gift tag, it was the same thing. Make sure it's all stuck down. And when you think it's done, do a couple more times for good luck. All right, put my library card off to the side. And my orange is still a little bit wet. So I'm gonna wait and come back, but what we're gonna do when we're ready is find an edge, and you're gonna take the, see there's the blue and then there's the white. You wanna take, there we go, this white part off, but you have to have your painting completely dry before you do the next part. So I'm gonna leave this here, and then I'm gonna come back when my painting's dry to stencil the tree on. Okay, so I actually left it overnight because my orange was still a little bit wet yesterday, and now it's time to do our stencil. So go ahead and peel that white backing off of your stencil vinyl very carefully. And then you want to feel the edge of your painting to see where the edge of that paint tape is at the bottom edge. And you want to line up your tree with that, that bottom edge so that it overlaps, so it has a little bit like of an island. I'm going to move it up a little bit further here. Feel that? Make sure it's straight across the bottom. And then you can line up, what is on there? Oh, there's a little itty bitty wrinkle, that's okay. And then stick that to your painting. And again, use a ruler or a card. I'm going to use my library card and give it a good rub all the way over so that the vinyl sticks really well. And when you think you've got it all good stuck, you want to peel up this transfer paper, and the blue will be left behind. Oh. If it starts to lift, can you guys see that this is my stencil lifting? Just go back down and rub over it again with your card or popsicle stick. Fold it down, and you want to very carefully, slowly do this so that you don't lose any parts of the tree. There, it's lifting again, so I'm going to go and rub it all over where it was starting to lift. Maybe we'll do the whole thing over again for good measure. There we go. Okay, and now go and rub and make sure all the little pieces of your stencil are stuck around the edges where we're going to paint. So we're going to paint in the middle on the tree part, and that'll give us our nice windswept tree silhouette. So just go, I've got a couple wrinkles. You can even use your card and go over the edges. Just make sure you don't catch the edges and peel it up. Give it a good rub. And when you think you're good and stuck, I know there's a couple of wrinkles at the edge. You can use your fingernail to bubble those little bubbles out. All right, I think that's pretty good and stuck over all the edges. And then we're gonna go and I'm gonna use, this is called a stippling brush, but if you've got a stiff brush at home, even if it's a different shape like this one, you can use it that way. And then you're gonna dip in the black paint and you're gonna dab it on. That'll keep it, just in case, from bleeding under the edge of the stencil. So go ahead and open your black paint again, not over your painting, just in case. And you don't want it to be too wet, so you can dip your brush in. And if you've got your work surface covered in paper, you can dab off a bit of that paint so that it's not too wet. And I'm going to start at the bottom. And you have to be careful, cover all parts of the tree, but you don't want to go off the stencil. The tricky part's going to be up at the top here because there's not a lot of room next to it. So we'll be careful when we get up there. So dab it on. There's the base of the tree. Now here's that tricky part. I'm going to squish my brush a bit so that I don't get it off my stencil. There we go. Once you're finished, you can gently peel the stencil and set aside the painting to dry. So I'm going to put my brush in my water cup up here so that I can wash it. Put my lid back on my black paint so it doesn't spill. So I have a little bit left over of the black paint. And then we're going to take an edge of this stencil, and it should come up fairly easily. And then again, very slowly, very carefully pull up the stencil. And you can save this if you like the tree and you want to use it on something else. You can set it aside to dry and reuse it if you want on another project, which is pretty neat. Remember, very, very carefully. Look at how beautiful that is. Be careful not to touch the tree while you're doing it too. All right. So we're going to leave this to dry. And then the next step is to take off all the masking tape. The last step after your tree is dried is to peel off all the masking tape to reveal the windows and the frame. So I'm going to start up at the top corner here. And you want to very carefully peel up the paint. Now it's bringing up some of my black paint, but that's okay. You can always go in and touch it up with some of your black paint you have left over. So I'm going to go through and touch up some of my lines with some of my black paint because the tape lifted it up. I had such a good seal. All right, roll up my sleeves, my nice white sweater. And just be careful that you don't mess up your beautiful sunset. Oops, I've got an extra hair on my paintbrush, not to get a clean line. There we go. And if you're trying to make up your line, you can put it on and wiggle it just a little bit. Okay. that is our finished painting. I've got a dry spot still in this corner, so I'm going to initial with my white paint. Gotta always sign your work, right? So with a fine paintbrush, this one's a little bit thick, I'm just going to put an H for Heather. Oh, I'll do an F too. That's my last initial. HF. There we go. There is your finished sunset silhouette painting. Now please remember to share your paintings with library@tay.ca or tag us on Facebook or Instagram at Tay Township PL. And we'd love to see how your paintings turn out. Thank you again for joining us for another Tay Township Public Library craft, and I hope you pick up the next kit. Bye!